On this week's Podcast Express, we have part 2 of our interview with Conrad Thompson, and we're going to be speaking with the hottest villain sensation in the wrestling world today, the progressive liberal Dan Richards. And also we're going to be getting called by Mike Gaspar of the Garbage Time Points podcast. He's going to let us know what happened with D'Angelo Williams at Slammiversary on Sunday and what his future is going to be like in wrestling. So Joe, how was your 4th of July weekend, man?
Fantastic 4th of July weekend. Spent the entire day watching wrestling and sitting at the house sounding like I was in a war zone with just fireworks going off left and right. Couldn't spend it any better way. Very excited to talk about New Japan this weekend, man. What a fantastic show they put on.
That was, probably one of the best U.S. shows I'd seen in a long time. I really wish that I was there. But I got to watch every single match, all freaking 8 hours of it, and I got to tell you, I don't think that I had a better 8 hours of watching wrestling in a really, really long time.
Yeah, it was right up there. The big matches that you wanted to deliver, the Okada match, the Omega match, and that tag team title match with War Machine, absolutely delivered. It hit on every point that you would have hoped for. And we're going to get into this more later. I know we've got a difference of opinion here, but damn it, Okada is the best wrestler in the world. And that Cody Rhodes match just really solidified it for me. I can't argue enough that there is no wrestler in the world today better than Okada.
That's a really good argument. My argument is that it's Kenny Omega. And if you take a look at what Kenny Omega did this weekend, there wasn't a single better weekend in the history of wrestling for any pro wrestler than I think Kenny Omega had this weekend as far as match quality goes. All 3 of his matches were just fantastic. Starting with his match on night 1 of the G1 special in the USA against Michael Elgin. That was obviously the best match of the night. Some people could argue that the Naito match was better, but Michael Elgin just put on a fantastic performance. The guy's a monster. He's a beast. And Kenny Omega, God, man, he just keeps getting better and better each and every time I see him. What did you think of that match?
I loved it. I really did. And I think picking between the two, you're really splitting hairs. It's like picking between Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. Kenny Omega to me is the Shawn Michaels and Okada is Ric Flair. And again, it's splitting hairs. It's style taste, but I like a Ric Flair more than I like Shawn Michaels because I like the psychology of it more. I like the way moves are sold. I like just the way Okada moves around the ring. Omega, that match with Michael Elgin was fantastic, but the biggest pops are just the offensive moves that Omega delivers. He's a very high octane kind of guy, moves around well. I don't like the Terminator thing that he does. I think he's done that in every match I've watched so far. He did that in the Michael Elgin match again. Not a huge fan of that. It comes off kind of cheesy to me. It was great in the first Okada match. I loved it then, but I've seen it in every match since then as well, so that kind of bugs me. But again, it's really nitpicking. It's really splitting hairs. He reminds me so much of Shawn Michaels. I hope one day get to see him in WWE. That Michael Elgin match just really proved. I always had a kind of a top 3 that I swapped out, that it could really be Okada, Omega, or AJ Styles. This past weekend just solidified Omega and Okada as 1 and 2 for me. And you could probably go either way with that 1 and 2 spot, but it's Okada for me. And the Cody Rhodes match just really showed it for me. Omega sounds like he's going to be getting Cody coming up, so that'll be a real test of who is better, because you can look at a mutual opponent and kind of compare off of that. And I really look forward to that match because Cody's a fantastic wrestler too.
Yeah, it's really hard to pick between the two. I think as far as overall a total package goes, I think Kenny Omega is the guy. He can cut promos, he can do everything. His matches are always great, and he can go heel. He can be a babyface. The guy can just do it all in the ring. But yeah, I think that a potential Cody Rhodes match is going to happen. Will it be at the Tokyo Dome? I don't know, but it's definitely going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be for the United States title, if it'll be in Ring of Honor or what, but they're definitely working towards that. Now, so let's stick with night 1. So Naito and Tomohiro Ishii. What a match that was. I mean, we're spending a lot of time talking about Omega and Okada as probably the two best wrestlers in the world, but you got Naito right behind him, and don't sleep on Tomohiro Ishii. Tomohiro Ishii had two of the best matches of the weekend, happened to be against Naito and Omega, and he had a match earlier this year that was rated at 5 stars with Kazuchika Okada, and that guy, he's 41 years old. He is just a beast. He's just a 5'6" solid rock stone pit bull, and that guy just had a hellacious match with Naito, and I was really shocked when he beat Naito.
Yeah, I think everyone was shocked of that, and I was following along on Twitter. I was live tweeting the event as it was happening. I said right after the match that Naito is becoming one of my favorite wrestlers. I've gotten to watch him a couple times. The more I get into New Japan, and he's delivered every single time that I've watched him. There was a lot of shock when he lost. I wasn't personally expecting it, but the match just absolutely delivered. A fantastic match. And for anybody who hasn't watched that, I believe you can get it on New Japan. I think they already have it up on their site on demand. It's $10 a month for that service. That match alone was worth that $10 that you would pay to go back and watch that. I really can't say enough good things about it. I look forward to watching Naito more. And is it Ishii? You got the two eyes in there. Fantastic performer. Just look forward to a lot from both of those guys over this next year.
Absolutely. Now, on night one, they also had the Guerrillas of Destiny versus War Machine, which I thought was a great match. But, if I have one bone to pick with New Japan, it's their tables. I don't know what the hell they're thinking with the type of tables that they're using to break. They're really skinny, and the move that War Machine did off the top rope through that table, it looked vicious, and I got a chance to see it on Twitter. There was a GIF going around with it before I actually got to watch the full show on Sunday. And man, what a great finishing move! I love War Machine. I think they're going to be a big deal. I hope they stick around New Japan for a long time. If not, I think the WWE could really use a tag team like that. The same with Guerrillas of Destiny, man. Those guys are awesome too. They're Haku's sons. They're going to be really big stars one day too.
Yeah, and on War Machine, not that this will play a huge factor into it, but I believe one of the guys, I'm drawing a blank on which one, has a girlfriend who is in NXT right now. She just got signed to NXT right when War Machine contract had started coming up with Ring of Honor, which has led to a lot of speculation that they're going to come over sooner than later. I would love to see them in WWE, but they do fit so well with what New Japan has. I would like to see them versus the Young Bucks. I think that already happened at Ring of Honor. I'd like to see another match for that. For guys of their size, they move around so well. They flip off the ropes just like a cruiserweight would, but they're also just big and bruising, kind of like the Authors of Pain. They're like the Authors of Pain with more athleticism. The match that they had, fantastic, but I agree with you on those tables, man. They've got to do something with those because those tables are small. They look weird to American fans. We're used to just seeing the WWE and ECW style tables. I never really understood the New Japan tables that they have. Just get them a little bit bigger. And I do want to correct you on one thing. It's GIF with a hard G, man. Don't be an old ass prick like that. It's GIF with a hard G.
Okay, now is it memes or memes?
It's memes.
Memes. Okay, I thought it was memes.
All right, yeah. No, it's memes, not memes, not memes. It's memes and GIF.
Memes.
There you go.
And okay, well, yeah. I stand corrected, you son of a bitch.
A slight youth lesson, you old ass bastard.
Oh man! And speaking of old ass bastard, actually, I don't really have a good segue. So night 2 was another fantastic one. Everybody will get to see it on Friday night on Access if you don't already have New Japan World. And I gotta say, the Zack Sabre Jr. Tomohiro Ishii. Oh yeah, old bastard Tomohiro Ishii. How about that? There's the segue.
There you go.
Zack Sabre Jr. Tomohiro Ishii match. I mean that, like, I see a lot of people criticizing Zack Sabre Jr. and sometimes I'm not a fan of his style. I think he's kind of like too fluid and things like that. But that match was fantastic. I mean, the submissions that he was going for, and the way that Tomohiro Ishii seemed like he was in so much pain from just a simple double wrist lock and the way he was bending his wrists and things like that. And the way that match built up to the finish with the brainbuster suplex that Tomohiro Ishii does, I absolutely love that match.
I haven't got to watch it yet. I didn't get to keep up with that. I was planning on watching it I guess what would be Friday when it airs on Access TV. I've been keeping up with New Japan there. I've heard a lot of good things about it. Zack Sabre Jr. has been a wrestler I've grown to like a lot more since the Cruiserweight Classic. I got introduced to him there. He is very much like Daniel Bryan when Daniel Bryan debuted on the NXT seasons that they were doing. Very fluid with his submissions. He has very unique submissions. He's a lengthy guy too. Someone that you might see in MMA. He's just very long and uses that to his advantage. The submission, I forget what it was called, that he used on night one, where he completely locked both arms in.
It was Juice Robinson was the guy who was wrestling.
Yeah. And yeah, from NXT also, he was, I think, CJ Roberts in NXT.
Something like that.
Yeah, he had both of his arms locked in and hooked both of his legs as well, to where he just absolutely couldn't move, even though he is in a standing position before he verbally tapped out. Was one of the more unique submissions I've ever seen. He's very much known as a technical grappler. He does have a little bit ways to go in terms of psychology of in-ring wrestling, but the sky is the limit for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a fantastic match. Definitely, Joe, go ahead and watch that tomorrow night on Access, or as you already know, Extreme Wrestling Torrents is your friend. But other great matches on that show was Roppongi Vice versus the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks got to do probably the craziest Meltzer driver ever that I've ever seen, in honor of, unfortunately, Dave Meltzer's dad, who had just passed away the day before, Mr. Herbert Meltzer. They got a chance to honor him in the middle of the match. It's so cool seeing Dave get a recognition on a major show like that. So that match was really awesome. Looks like Roppongi Vice broke up right after the match, and Trent Beretta is going to go ahead and go into the heavyweight division. And then the main event was absolutely we're not even going to talk about Tanahashi versus Billy Gunn. Not much happened. Billy Gunn can barely move. Tanahashi did his best, but he's hurt, so that match, we'll just go ahead and skip over that one. But the main event of Kenny Omega versus Ishii was probably, there's been so many good matches in New Japan, and this one probably won't even crack the top 5, unfortunately. But damn, was this a really good match. And my favorite moment of the whole match, and I'm sure you saw the GIFs going around, of whenever they were on the ring apron, and there was a table underneath them, and Kenny Omega was trying to do a dragon suplex off the ring apron into the table, and he hooked both of his arms, and Ishii just bit onto the top rope and locked it in to where Omega couldn't get him. That was just flat out awesome, man.
Yeah, I really look forward to watching that, and my curiosity is getting piqued with this New Japan US heavyweight title, because they're not scheduled to come back to America until 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So is Omega going to defend that title in Japan? Or are they going to send him around the world to defend it? Or will he be staying in America doing Ring of Honor shows or Evolve shows, or whatever independent promotion to defend that US IWGP title?
Well, he's probably going to be defending it in Japan, but he is scheduled for some Ring of Honor dates later this year. They haven't been announced yet, but he will definitely be defending that title on Ring of Honor. I'm pretty sure it'll just be Ring of Honor pay-per-views, but he's definitely said that he's going to be doing some Ring of Honor shows later this year, especially now that he's got his visa situation worked out. So that's going to be awesome. As we record this right now, the Wrestling Observer has not been posted yet, because of the unfortunate passing of Dave Meltzer's father. So I'm really anxious to see what kind of star rating that match gets. I gave it 5 stars. Nobody gives a shit what I give matches, but I really hope that gets a 5-star rating, and I think it will cement, Kenny Omega as, top 1 or 2. I was listening to a podcast earlier today with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Don Callis, who was Cyrus the Virus or the Jackal in the WWE back in the day, and Steve Austin's totally on board. He's saying that Kenny Omega is going to be the guy once he comes into the WWE, and it's only a matter of when at this point, as long as the WWE just kind of lets him do his thing and lets him kind of not 100% control his own character, but just kind of like just straps the rocket ship to that guy. He's flat out amazing.
Yeah, I think it really depends on, this is something that's discussed with 1,000 wrestling fans everywhere and probably on every podcast, is how long is Omega in NXT if he decides to come over? I'm sure he will at some point. Will he go through NXT first, where at that point he'd be controlled primarily by Paul Levesque, by Triple H, who will give him that freedom? He's really shown to allow wrestlers to have more freedom in NXT. And then when he moves up to the main roster, is Vinnie Mac at that point, is he giving more control to Triple H, or will he still be just fully in power? Because if it's Vinnie Mac, you're probably not going to get as much freedom as you would when Triple H takes over. So that could be a kind of a sticking point that a lot of these guys like Omega, like Ricochet, Will Ospreay, Zack Sabre Jr., that fans are really hoping to come over. A lot of those guys could be waiting for Triple H to get more power to have some of the same control that they're used to having. Not 100% creative control, but a little bit more freedom in how they tell the stories in their matches. I look forward to Omega coming over. It's always sounded like it's a matter of when, not if. There was some talk of him coming over earlier this year. He said he had a few things he wanted to get finished up, but I think everybody was expecting 2018, but with as good as 2017 is going, it may be difficult for him to leave in early 2018 if things are still going this well and are this hot. He may wait until 2019 now, because it sounds like they do 1-year deals over there. So I think it could be a couple of years off.
Well, so I'm going to tell you right now that the Young Bucks, their deal is coming up this year, because they signed a 2-year deal with Ring of Honor and New Japan together. And Kenny Omega is on a 1-year deal. And I think that was part of his decision-making, is for him to come over with the Young Bucks. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, with the amount of money that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are making in New Japan, and they're kind of selling their own merchandise and doing their own thing, booking their own indie dates, they are not going to spend a single fucking minute in NXT. It'd be a waste of their time. They're not doing it. So the only way they're coming over is if they pay them a lot of money, because they already make a lot of money, so they're gonna have to ask for more money than what they're making now to work the dates the WWE is gonna want them to work, and they're gonna have to have some type of creative freedom to do a lot of their own things. So the WWE will have to make it worth their while, because they don't need WWE. They are independently wealthy away from WWE and out of that system. They are probably some of the most business-minded wrestlers that are on the independent scene right now. I think Cody Rhodes has kind of patterned what he's doing after them. But these guys are, them and Colt Cabana, guys they've been breaking the mold on the indie scene, and they've proven that you don't need WWE to make a lot of money. So WWE will have to make it worth their while, and they won't even bring up the word NXT. I guarantee it.
I think it's hard to guarantee that, just because Vince, with the exception of AJ Styles, everybody has gone through there. Finn Balor didn't need NXT. Shinsuke Nakamura didn't need NXT. They were huge wrestlers in Japan. They were both very wealthy. They both still did time in NXT. Samoa Joe didn't need time in NXT. He is proven. Well, he's a seasoned veteran.
Right. He didn't need it, but Samoa Joe wasn't making the money that these guys are making. Nakamura, he did. We thought he didn't need it, and it ended up being true. But at the time, coming from the Japanese system and not speaking English, I think he really benefited from his time in NXT. And now I'm going to tell you right now, I had no idea who Finn Balor was until he got to NXT, because New Japan wasn't on fire the way that it is now, and they don't have the foothold in the U.S. the way they do now. So I'm telling you right now, there's no way Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks step foot in NXT. It's just not happening. But hey, so that's going to do it for our talk about the G1 special in the USA. We got a very special guest. We're going to call him right now. It is the progressive liberal, Daniel Richards. All right, I'm here with the progressive liberal, Daniel Richards. He is the hottest wrestling villain on the independent wrestling scene, and you've probably seen him all over the news. He was featured on BBC, The Washington Post, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, Deadspin, tonight on Vice News, my favorite show that I watch every single night. They got a good 5-minute segment on him. Daniel, how you doing, man?
Oh man, I'm on a cloud right now. I just got to watch and rewatch the Vice News piece they did, and man, I mean, just I don't know what to say. I'm just so thrilled. What a dream.
Absolutely, man. So Vice is mandatory appointment viewing in my household, man. Me and my wife watch it every single night. So we're really excited to see you on there. So what has life been like for you the last couple of weeks?
It's pretty indescribable because I mean, just it started with Deadspin running the story on me, which was byproduct that started after someone who knew someone that worked there saw a tweet about me, and then they did some digging and found my YouTube channel, found all our footage of me on Appalachian Mountain Wrestling's YouTube channel, and it started with that. And man, I mean, just I don't know. It's just you could never expect it to become what it's become, and the life I've been living the last week and a half now has just been amazing. I've enjoyed every second of it.
I bet, man. I bet. And then I was listening today on your appearance on Bischoff on Wrestling with Tyrus. How was that for you to get to speak with Eric Bischoff, a guy that I don't know how old you are. I'm 34, and when I was a kid watching the Monday Night Wars, like Eric Bischoff was a huge deal, and to be able to talk to that guy, how was that like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Eric, and still have a lot of respect for him, even more so now. I mean, I'm super grateful for him. First of all, he reached out to me late last week, via text message, and I mean, that would just having a text message on my phone from Eric Bischoff was surreal, and then talking to him, shortly thereafter, it was just it was indescribable. And then that led to the podcast, and I thought that was pretty cool. It was myself and Nick Houseman who co-host that Bischoff on Wrestling with Eric. And, we were representing the Liberals, and we had Eric and Tyrus, formerly of WWE, formerly Impact Wrestling, now on Glow. He was, and of course, a Fox News contributor, and they were representing the red side. And, but we had a good discussion that didn't get caustic, and, I really enjoyed myself on the program.
Yeah, it was really fun listening to it, man. And a shout out to Nick Houseman. He gave me a shout out on the show today.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Very cool guy, fellow liberal. So we gotta support our own. So I'm very curious about something, because I too am a liberal, and I'm kind of an anomaly in my family. Like, I moved to Missouri in the heart of the Ozarks. You want to talk about Bible Belt? They could probably rival East Kentucky. And I was born and raised in California. Then I moved to Missouri when I was 16, and I brought a lot of my California liberal values with me. And it didn't quite go over so well. And I'm really my family and I, we all get along great. We argue a lot about politics, and that's great. But so, what's the family dynamic for you? Like, are you like an outsider with your liberal views, or is your family all share it with you?
It's a nice mix, and thankfully, my dad watches Fox on the regular, for sure. So he didn't know who Eric Bischoff was, but he knew who Tyrus was. So, but yeah, my dad and I, we talk. It doesn't have to get nasty. And I think that's kind of the problem in, Washington and throughout our country, is it's gotten so caustic, and it's become so partisan, and, you can disagree with people, and then it doesn't have to get, like, to the point it's gotten, I think. And, it's been cool, on the programs I've been on, where, I'm definitely talking to someone, to my political right. It's been good. And I mean, I'm proud of that. I feel like, I don't know, man, maybe the progressive liberal can set an example for the rest of the nation on that a lot when he's, conversing. I might be appearing on Fox News, sooner than we think. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, and I'll be looking forward to it. Be sure to tweet out when you're going to be on Fox News so I can see, because that channel's never really on in my house. But but if you're going to be on there, I'll definitely have to watch. Yeah, and I think it's great that you're able to have these conversations with conservatives and with some folks from the other side. It kind of reminds me of the dynamic with my family and my friends, especially whenever I go back to Missouri and we're kind of over a bonfire, kind of talking about gun control and legislation and healthcare and things like that. So I think that we need to see more of that. Now, today on the Jim Cornette Experience, and I get the feeling you're pretty aware of who Jim Cornette is. He is a liberal from Kentucky. He is kind of an anomaly there in Kentucky, and he's a heat-seeking missile in that part of the region. And he did you get a chance to listen to his show today?
Yeah, it's a pretty funny story. I love Jim Cornette. I find and I also share a hatred of Vince Russo. So
we're there with you. We're there with you, buddy.
Yeah, I think anyone who's a true fan of wrestling is probably there. So 99% of the time. But yeah, yes. So a friend of mine, a guy I'm going to be working for on August 2nd, around Huntington, West Virginia. He forwarded me the link. And he just put the comment, "You're killing the business," or something like that. And I about had a bowel movement right there because I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like one of my favorite people in the business is. I'm about to listen to him, crap all over me. But it wasn't that bad. I manned up, made myself listen to it. It wasn't that bad. And I think at the end of the day, like, I felt like there were some compliments mixed in there, but at the same time, like, Jim has his base as well, and it's a lot of liberals, and I don't know. I think Jim was working a bit, with that. I think he knows why I'm a heel, and East Kentucky's a brilliant wrestling mind, so I think he understands why I'm getting booed there, and that we could do anything, we could try everything to make me a baby face in East Kentucky as a liberal. It ain't happening.
Not going to happen. No.
Yeah, you'd have a better chance of getting, I think the fans throughout the country to cheer for Roman Reigns at this point. Than and that's not a criticism if anyone ever wants to take it like that. I mean, it's just that's he's getting the reaction. He's getting a reaction, which is the main thing we all go for, to get people emotionally involved. I don't think that was the company's initial approach, and that's all we're waiting into.
Right, and if nobody had a chance to listen to what Jim had to say, we tweeted out the YouTube video for the Arcadian Vanguard podcast crew that Brian Last has going on. And basically what Jim was saying was he was upset at the fact that he was even a heel. He thinks that everything he's saying is what a babyface should be saying, and I was pretty anxious to hear what he had to say, and he made some good points. I do think that if you were here in California, especially in Northern California, you're probably totally a babyface.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. At the end of the day, the audience decides, and again, that's why I think Jim's working. And I say it with all due respect, it's like. And that's the one thing. If this national exposure has shown me, not that I didn't maybe know it before, but it's like definitely illustrated that if I go to DC or if I go to Los Angeles or if I go to New York City, I'm going to be a celebrated babyface, and I think that's awesome. So I've got some opportunities coming up to work in some places that I will be cheered for, but I'm not going to change the character. I say character again for lack of a better term. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to wrestle as a progressive liberal, and and it'll be I'm not a heel that wants to be cheered. I know how the crowd's going to react in the Bible Belt and the southeast part of the country, but I also know how they'll react in other places, and it's cool. I think it's an interesting dynamic.
Absolutely. You know what it reminds me of is 1997 Bret Hart when he was the heel in America and he was the baby. Okay, like Not that you're that level yet. I mean, Brett's one of the greatest ever. But
no. Let the headline say you just compared me to Bret the Hitman Hart.
Right. I'm just saying I'm just saying the dynamic is comparative to what Bret Hart was doing whenever he turned heel in 1997, where he was the babyface everywhere except for America.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely an element of that.
So, speaking of big names, has WWE reached out to you at all about this kind of success you've been having lately?
That's a tough question. Well, I mean, the short answer is no, they have not. Right. A lot of people ask, what about WWE? I mean, look, I'm real. I'm real when I'm in the ring in front of people, and when I'm on, doing interviews and stuff like that. I'm saying how I really feel, and that translates into my real life, and vice versa. With, I'm realistic. I'm going to be 37 on Monday. I would love to do something in WWE. I hope they're watching the HBO series today. Vice News. I hope they see that, and I hope they see other programs I believe I'll be on here in the near future. I say that because you never know with TV. Like, we were supposed to be on Vice News last night, and instead we were today. But it's all good. I would love to be on there, but usually when they're signing a 37-year-old. They're usually someone more well-traveled. I've wrestled in 9 different states. But again, that's, I don't have the international exposure at someone they would sign at this point. And, I'm not one of their homegrown guys. I would love the opportunity, even like a James Ellsworth type of spot, or, as far as like what, he was going to do a squash match. And people liked his look. And they went somewhere with it, and maybe something like that could happen for me, where I've got a little bit of a following right now, and have me on TV for a similar type role, and maybe it's one and done, or maybe we can go somewhere with it. But if they don't call, I mean, man, I'd love to have a match on their TV. I mean, but no one could take that away from me. That's the dream. But in the meantime, my bookings are picking up, and I'm very excited about what's going on.
Well, and in the meantime, right now, the independent scene is such that you don't really need WWE to make a really good living. I think the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, and right now, Cody Rhodes, obviously he'd come from WWE, but guys like that and Pentagon Jr., guys like that they're making a really decent living, and they don't need to go to WWE to do that. They can kind of pick and choose where they want to go. And, your name's getting some heat right now. So, and like you said, your bookings have picked up quite a bit. So, it'd be great, but it seems right now you probably don't even need to go, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I want to go. I want to go there, right, though. Right. It's like, I mean, but if I do this because I love it. I wasn't doing this. When I was doing it 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I was not known nationally. I wasn't known, west of East Kentucky. Okay. I mean, so I'll gladly drive this 500 miles I drive from Richmond, Virginia to make these towns because I love doing it and I believe in it. And so, but I want to go there, but if I don't, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to quit. I will keep working hard and trying to get better every day, and I'll keep training, and I'll do it till I can do it no longer.
Absolutely, and I've already been bugging All Pro Wrestling here in the Bay Area. They're based out of San Francisco. I've been bugging them on Twitter to book one Mr. Daniel Richards out here. I think that it would be great to see you. They actually got a guy out here named the Berkeley Brawler who does kind of a similar thing that you're doing, but he's way more obnoxious. So if you ever get a chance, look up the Berkeley Brawler. But I am hereby pleading to All Pro Wrestling, bring Daniel Richards to California. I want to see him wrestle. And there's a big show.
Yeah,
There's a big show coming
there.
up in. There's a big show in November at the Cow Palace. Last time they were there was in May, I think, and they actually had over 3,000 people. So I think you'd be a great fit out here for a couple of dates.
Yeah, hey, man, I mean, I haven't wrestled in California. Obviously, I'd love to. I mean, you know, I'm open for business, will travel, and, you know, let's strike while the iron's hot. To any independent promoter that may be listening, a Sam Adonis match versus a progressive liberal
that'd be
is
awesome.
something that would not only, I think, help draw a little bit if, you know, it's promoted correctly and in the right area, but it might get you a little national attention as well. Because, I mean, there's been plenty of interviews where, you know, he's brought up to me, and, you know, I know I've been brought up to him, and, you know, when you see a story on me, often you may also be interested in, and there's a story on him. I knew who he was before, you know, all this stuff happened, and, you know, now he knows who I am. So, there's money to be made there, I believe.
I think that is an inevitability, and you guys could do it in multiple states. If you go to Kentucky, he's the baby face. If you come here to California with our Mexican population, he's going to get booed right out of the building. I think that dynamic absolutely works.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Without doubt.
So you said you're 37 years old, so you're only a couple years older than me. So when you were a kid, who were some of the wrestlers that you looked up to?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I was like a lot of kids who might not watch today. I mean, I think we were all Hulkamaniacs, or most of us were. And, you know, from there, I mean, I was always a fan. Like, I don't know, and I know this is not cool to say, I was a big Chris Benoit fan. I mean, I really was. And then, but, you know, one of my favorite of all time is probably Lord Steven Regal, William Regal in WWE. I mean, I just think he's awesome. I like his style. You know, we're of similar body types, and I mean, there's a little, you know, if I could be so bold to say, there's a little bit his character in me, and you know, I take from that, and I mean, I love British wrestling too. Jim Breaks. If you ever have a chance to YouTube him from Wide World of Sport, watch any of his matches. Unfortunately, he just got arrested for murdering his wife also, so I don't know what it is about me and liking wrestlers who end up murdering their wives, but I assure you it's just a coincidence.
Yeah. I was gonna cut you off. I was like, well, I don't know if you heard the story about Jim Breaks that happened this weekend.
Yeah, no, I mean, Bo James, who's my mentor, you know, I stay at his house and a lot when I'm making these trips out to Kentucky. He lives in East Tennessee, and you know, I drive 5 hours to his house, and usually from there it's a 2 to 4 hour drive from whatever town we're wrestling in Kentucky. We've got 2 events coming up this Saturday in East Tennessee. So I'm very excited about that. And, you know, we've been doing a lot of local media for that. But I mean, there was one morning I got up and I walk in the room, or maybe I'd just woken up from a nap or something, and I go in the living room where he's sitting, he told me about Jim Breaks. I mean, it just broke my heart. Just what? I mean, I know he's 80 years old now, but still, I'm friends with Jim Breaks on Facebook, and like had posted to him, like, you know, how much I respect him and admired him, and, you know, now I guess I won't be talking to him anymore.
No. Well, that's we don't want to you know, bring everybody down here. So, but let's pick them up. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, just a couple more questions. So, when you were a kid, I'm always fascinated by this. Were you a WCW guy or a WWF guy?
I was a WWE guy. I mean, but, you know, during the Monday Night Wars, I mean, I think, you know, I I'd watch Raw, but anytime they were on a commercial break, I'd flip to WCW and hope they were on. I don't know. I think that's just a byproduct of like, loyalty from, because when I was a kid, I mean, I'm embarrassed to say this, but like I didn't know about, Crockett or Smoky Mountain and things like that. I didn't really know anything other than WWE. So it's, when I started training right after college, I was fortunate enough to, get with guys like Bo James and, Scotty McKeever, who, had me take my first bumps. And they educated me on territories, especially Bo. Bo's a wrestling historian, multi-time author, has 3 books published, has a couple more coming out later this year. Just the exposure to, Memphis wrestling, Portland wrestling, the Von Erich territory, every world class. I mean, just all of that, just really helped foster an education. And I still watch that older stuff from the 70s, through like 85. I mean, I think it's the best stuff to learn from.
Absolutely, and if people have the network, they can actually see a lot of that stuff. And I strongly recommend everybody watch the documentary Memphis Heat about Memphis wrestling. It's one of the best wrestling documentaries I've ever seen.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, at the end of the day, this business is about drawing emotion out of people, and we have that with what we do at Appalachian Mountain Wrestling, which you can see every week on a new episode on YouTube. Every Tuesday night, a new episode uploads. The latest episode, we uploaded this Wednesday because of the holiday and some technical difficulties. But, that's what they had in Memphis and Crockett Promotions and places like that, man. It's just, they brought the people down and they brought them back up. I mean, they had baby faces that you wanted to see beat up the bad guys and bad guys you wanted to hate.
Absolutely.
For what they did to your heroes.
Yeah, and so there, I've only been to Kentucky one time in my life, so I don't know much about it, but I hear that they take their wrestling very seriously. And back in the day, there would be riots; they would try to throw stuff at the wrestlers, try to fight the wrestlers. Now it's a little different. It's a little different today. Have you had any issues like that at all with this new character?
Look, I get real heat. I haven't had anyone try to climb over the barricade and, over the guardrails and kill me. We did have a threat of gun violence that someone said if that, effing liberal comes to this town, I'm going to shoot him. I mean, things like that, man. But we work every day to try to get them to riot. And, I hope one day we get there. That's what we strive for, is an emotional reaction. And I mean, we get good emotional reactions. It can always be better, and you can always go up. So, we're striving for that.
Absolutely. And I get the feeling that, after the whirlwind of a couple of weeks you've had, that the shows that you'll be doing this weekend are going to be pretty packed, I would say. And did I see correctly that Ric Flair is going to be at one of the shows?
That's the 11th. The 11th we're in Kentucky. Oh gosh, man. Go to Appalachian Mountain Wrestling and you can see all our updated events, as well as on my Facebook page, /PL Daniel Richards. You can see all our upcoming events, but the event on the 11th, forgive me for not knowing remembering the town, but it's in East Kentucky. Ric Flair's going to be there. Flair's separate from our event, but the fair's paying him to be there. Al Snow will be wrestling our champion Stan Sierra, and then probably the most talked about independent wrestler in the country right now, myself, progressive liberal Daniel Richards. I will be there as well, and we'll have one of the major networks following us around, for 3 days, and that'll be the first of those 3 days. So I'm very excited about that, and see what comes of it. And we'll keep people updated as we know the air dates.
Absolutely, and we'll be tweeting out the link to make sure we get the dates and times and all that stuff correct. So I got one last question for you. Not really a question, it's just more of an idea. You absolutely got to start making snowflakes with your picture on it and throwing it out to the crowd. It has to happen.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. I mean, I'm surprised I haven't seen a poster like that in the crowd, and it'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah,
good idea.
It's happening, and if you throw them out there, they're putting that shit right back in the ring at you. So
I saw a funny headline today. A gentleman from a publication in Cleveland came to our event on the 4th. We had an event in the 4th in Martin, Kentucky, as part of the Wayne, I believe the Wayne County Fair, and the guy he was a liberal and wrote a good piece and had some really good photography, but whoever his editor was, I guess, is not such a liberal, and the headline was like libtard, so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, whatever, man. That stuff just rolls right off my back. Like, I mean, I'm getting a lot of love from all my social media right now, but it's like I've gotten, definitely some hate thrown in there as well, and that stuff just rolls off my back. I get food for a living, so you're not going to hurt my feelings.
Absolutely not. Hey, the more hate, the better, I say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get it where in the Southeast where I wrestle. I mean, that's just doesn't matter where my star shoots off to. It's gonna be heat. And it's gonna be real heat because I am real, and I'm not saying things I don't believe. I could not go to Los Angeles and be a Sean, or that your promotion in San Francisco, and be a Sean Hannity character, because it is not in my heart, it is not in me, and I could try to memorize all their stupid talking points and dialogue, and it's not going to come out. People can, I think subconsciously sense that stuff, and, that's why it comes across. That's why if you see a guy who's, trying to remember a script that was written for him by someone else who is not him, it doesn't get a reaction. So.
Well, you're the real deal, man, and I really appreciate you coming on. And everybody, follow Daniel Richards on Twitter. What's your Twitter account?
Twitter is at ProgressLib, LIB 804. That's the Richmond, Virginia area code for those of you who do not know.
Absolutely. Give him a follow. He's a great follow. He has been seen everywhere. He's going to be on Vice News tonight, which I'm really excited about. And go out to see him wrestle this coming up weekend. And I have an open invitation out to Kyle Fox News Maggard, or Maggot as you call him. If he wants to come on here and talk some shit with me, I'd love to have him. Daniel, thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me. Also got T-shirts for sale. If I can make another shameless
go for
plug.
it. Go for it.
Yeah, T-shirts for sale at whatamaneuver.net. That's whatamaneuver.net. Just search the progressive liberal Daniel Richards. You'll find them. I've got a couple of T-shirts out, and hopefully have some more merchandise sooner than later. But appreciate all the support, and thanks so much for having me on all these. Every single interview I look as a blessing and an opportunity. I'm very grateful.
Hey, thank you, man. You have a good night.
Hey, you too. All the best.
Well, there you have it. That was the progressive liberal Daniel Richards. What a great interview. What a great guy. I'm sure I'm going to piss off my whole family with that interview. Hey, Joe, welcome back to the show, man. Sorry I couldn't get you on with Mr. Daniel Richards, but it was a really, really great and fun interview.
Yeah, I'm sure, man. The guy has been just a really hot name on the indie circuit, and just great to have him on the show. Here in our early going, man, we're landing some big fish.
Absolutely, man. I think that probably the most famous guy would have to be Daniel Richards. Last week we had Conrad. We're going to go ahead and play part 2 of our Conrad Thompson interview. We're going to get into some really interesting questions with him. please forgive the audio on the Conrad Thompson interview. I was pretty new to this. I didn't quite know exactly what I was doing, but I think I got this shit figured out. But I took some heat on Twitter and on the Wrestling Observer message board. Some asshole face told me to fist myself because the audio wasn't up to par. So, fuck him.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and preview Great Balls of Fire, man. I'm actually looking forward to this show, and it seems like WWE has a freaking pay-per-view every Sunday. But man, they got Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe coming up this week, man.
Yeah, it's going to be the Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe has probably had the best build-up of any WWE feud since maybe Lesnar versus Taker a couple of years ago when Taker came back and cost Brock the title. That feud up to SummerSlam through Hell in a Cell was really great, really physical. There was a lot of anger in it, and I think you're getting a similar feel here with Joe versus Brock. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Samoa Joe may be the first person I've seen who's gotten physical with Paul Heyman. He choked Paul Heyman out and then also choked out Lesnar. I don't think we've seen that before. Again, tempering my expectations though, because I've gotten hyped up for other cards main evented by Brock Lesnar. I've got myself built up because I know how great of a wrestler he is. I know he can put on fantastic shows and then have been let down over and over again. I'm trying to temper my expectations, but I expect this to be a great card, at least a great main event, and there are some other good matches on this card that can deliver.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to the Lesnar-Joe match. It's a dream match that we've all wanted to see for a long time. I just really hope it delivers. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat watching that one. And in the co-main event, you got Seth Rollins, or not Seth Rollins. We got Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman in an ambulance match. I wasn't too excited about this a couple weeks ago after this past Monday Night's Raw. I'm kind of excited about this one too. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, Braun has really come along as a wrestler. He moves around well for his size. He's gotten a lot better. They've done a good build with him. I'm not normally a fan of the ambulance matches. I think it's a cheesy gimmick, but it prevents somebody from getting pinned or tapped out. So I think it will be easy to make both guys look strong here because the plan, I believe, is for Reigns to come out of this and then challenge Lesnar for the title at SummerSlam. And you still need Braun Strowman to look strong because they've put so much into him. And Reigns is kind of the heel in this match. I mean, the fans love Braun Strowman. When Reigns was in the ambulance and it got flipped over, they chanted, "You deserve it, Adam." And that's just like a brutal chant for a guy who could have seriously been injured.
Yeah.
But
he could have died.
Yeah, he could have died, and fans said he deserved it.
Right.
And when Braun just beat him down, they chanted for more of it. Oh, not because they like Braun, I don't think. It's just because fans hate Roman Reigns that much. So I think this will be a great match. I mean, Reigns has delivered previously. He's had good matches with other guys. This will be the best test we've seen for Braun Strowman because it's probably the biggest stage he's been on so far.
He's been in the main event with Roman before and delivered absolutely, and this is going to be a unique match, and I think that both of the guys will stay. They're both going to stay strong after this match. Obviously, the Wrestling Observer has reported that Roman Reigns is on tap for the main event of SummerSlam against Brock Lesnar. So, if you're a betting man, I would say bet on Roman and Brock winning their respective matches. And so my who gives a shit of the week is, hey, Joe, Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt's wrestling on Sunday.
Man, 2 or 3 years ago, I would have been really hyped for this match, but Bray Wyatt has just been consistently fed to every guy from the Shield, and it's the same promo over and over again because they don't let him change it up, and then he's going to go out there and lose.
Yep.
Who's interested in this match?
I honestly had totally forgot that they were having a match, but it's definitely on the card.
It's a thing that's happening.
So Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt, who gives a shit? Now, an interesting match, though, is the Iron Man match with the Hardys and Sheamus and Cesaro.
It's not a fucking Iron Man match. It's 30 minutes.
Well, you can have a 30-minute Iron Man match. You can have a 45-minute. You can have a 60-minute. It's just whoever gets the most pinfalls or decisions in the time limit. That's the definition of an Iron Man match.
Yeah, but I don't know. My definition of an Iron Man match is it's an hour-long match. You go out there and you have an hour-long time limit to get in pinfalls or submissions. 30 minutes, that's just an average length of a match. Like, I don't know. I consider an Iron Man match just like the Iron Man triathlon. It's a long distance. It's a long distance of time that you just have to push yourself through. 30 minutes is nothing.
Well, I think 30 minutes is going to be a lot for Matt Hardy. He's kind of chubby.
Yeah, he is kind of chubby. Maybe this match might break Matt Hardy.
Hey,
No pun intended.
Hopefully so. Dave Meltzer reported that they're coming close to a deal to get that broken gimmick. That would be awesome, huh?
I look forward. I wasn't a fan of it when it first came out. When I watched, was it the Final Deletion when they had the match at the Hardy compound? I wasn't bought in, but the more I've seen of it, it's so unique, and it's given Matt Hardy something he's always needed, because Matt Hardy's not the most charismatic guy. When you look at him in TNA previously, or Impact or Global Force, whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays, his time in WWE, he wasn't the most charismatic guy. He's completely reinvented himself. I really look forward to the Broken Hardys coming out on Monday Night Raw. I just can't wait for it.
Right. Any other matches you're looking forward to on Great Balls of Fire?
You know, there's two more that we haven't really talked about. I think Neville versus Tozawa, the Cruiserweight match, which fans really haven't bought into the division yet, but Tozawa's getting over by only saying one word over and over again, and Neville is a fantastic competitor. I think their match will be just fantastic. I would expect a lot of big spots. Titus O'Neil, for some reason, is now managing Tozawa and other mid-carders. I think that match will go really good. And the Enzo Amore Big Cass match, I wish they would have held off a little bit until SummerSlam. It would have been nice to see a little bit more build towards that. But their first match against each other, I think, could be really good. I would expect Big Cass to come out on top of that, maybe do a rematch at SummerSlam. But I really look forward to seeing what they do there.
I'm definitely interested. I just don't see it going very well for either guy. I think they're better together than they are apart.
You know, I would agree with that, but I've seen Big Cass stand alone when Enzo was out. I was actually at Monday Night Raw the night after Enzo got that injury up in Chicago last year, and Cass came out. He did his own promos. He wrestled that night. He's a really good wrestler. He's grown a lot, and this will be a big test for him. Everybody's known since that happened that Vinnie Mac kind of had a man crush on him. Vinnie Mac likes his big guys. I think Cass will probably get pushed really fast. I think we'll see a lot from him. This will be his first big test as a singles competitor. I really look forward to this. These guys have been wrestling together for a couple of years now. Usually when that happens, usually when you're close friends, there's a lot of in-ring chemistry, and you see those guys put on great matches. This could be, kind of what Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn was, just guys who have a great relationship together. Because they're not going to pull any punches. When you know a guy really well, you're a little bit more willing to be physical with them. So I think that will lead into a better match than most people would ever expect from these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how much time they get. But with the tag match going 30 minutes, and then hopefully the main event will get some time, man. I fucking hope it's not less than 5 minutes. It's going to be one of the more unique shows.
Yeah, that's a big thing to think about is when's the last time Brock Lesnar's gone longer than 10 or 20 minutes in a match? It may date back to his Undertaker match, because his matches with Goldberg was 2 minutes long and then 5 minutes long, and that takes up pretty much all of 2016 for Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, man. Well, he had his match with Dean Ambrose at not this past year's WrestleMania, but the year before that, which sucked, that match.
Yeah. The Randy Orton match, I think that went maybe 5 or 10 minutes before that got stopped. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because we know the Joe match now. Everyone expecting the Reigns match to main event SummerSlam. It'll be interesting to see what Brock Lesnar can do, and what fans are hoping will be an extended period of time as opposed to the shorter matches we've gotten.
Right. So hey man, did you get a chance to watch any of Global, TNA, Impact, whatever the fuck Slammiversary?
I didn't. I refuse to give that company my time. I wouldn't even call it my money because I could easily torrent it.
Well, that's what I did. That's what I did. And I watched it. Wasn't that bad, honestly. Main event kind of fell flat. But I think the biggest news coming out of Slammiversary was the performance of D'Angelo Williams. So you know what? Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk to our resident football expert, Mike, if we can get him on the phone. Hold on, let me try to call him. Mike, you're on the Podcast Express, man. Welcome on.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. It's about time. 2 shows in. That's how long it took for you guys to get me on.
Well, you know, we're big time, man. Last week we had Conrad Thompson, and today we got the progressive liberal Daniel Richards, the hottest indie wrestling superstar in the world today. And now we got the host of the Garbage Time Points podcast, Mike freaking Gaspar. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I feel bad for you guys, though. You were on top of the world last week, and you just seem to be going down. You made it all the way down here where I am.
Hey, so, you know, the reason why we wanted to have you on is because you're kind of our resident sports guy, our football
That's
guy.
True.
And D'Angelo Williams, former running back of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Carolina Panthers, currently a free agent, former number 1 draft pick in 2006 by the Panthers. He had a wrestling match on Slammiversary, man. Did you get a chance to see it?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I got a chance to look at it last night, and I got to tell you, I was impressed with the guy. He shot right up there past Snooki and Lawrence Taylor as far as it goes for celebrities or athletes making their appearance in a wrestling ring. I think that if he actually put a little bit of effort into it, he could be somewhere close to an Apollo Crews type guy.
Yeah, you know, I was really impressed with him, man, and apparently he only trained 3 days for that match.
Yeah, that's what he said. But you know, he had all that training probably growing up with his brothers in the bedroom, so that stuff carries over. But I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting kind of the he's going to stand in the corner and let Moose do all the work, but nah, they let him in there. He was running around, jumping all over the place, pulling out moves that I just did not expect at all. I was very, very impressed. Except for in the end with that whole frog splash thing where he almost broke his back. Aside from that, it was a great showing by him. It's just too bad that he's only going to be doing this one time, and he's going to go back and try to play the NFL for a couple more years.
Yeah, man. Hey, Joe, did you get a chance to see the GIF or GIF or May or whatever the fuck of him not breaking that table?
No, I didn't, but from the sounds of it, I need to go back and watch it. Did he try to do a frog splash to the table?
Yeah, and the table didn't break, and he landed right on his face.
You know, that's the most TNA thing that TNA could do is just have a table out there that wouldn't break. One thing I want to ask, Mike, was I've heard a lot of good reviews from D'Angelo Wrestling. Was it good because your expectations were low? Or if you didn't know he was a football player going in, if you had no idea who he was, would it still have been good?
It was good because he was actually pretty good. You know, I was expecting him to, you know, script him out some, you know, clotheslines, maybe a body slam. But he actually went in there, and I can't tell you all the names or whatever he did, but he looked like if he just with a little more time committed to this, that he could actually pull this thing off and be an actual wrestler. You know, like he could be in the cruiserweight division in the WWE if he committed to it. I really didn't have any expectations. To tell you the truth, I didn't even know that he was going to be wrestling. I don't keep up with TNA. I have this thing where I'm a snob against them because I just do not get the whole six-sided ring thing. So I had no idea this was going on.
I'm there with you on that. I can't stand that ring.
Yeah, it's just so hard for me to watch, and you could see it. You know, it even confused him a little bit sometimes because when they're throwing him into the ropes or into the corner, he had no idea. Well, which way am I supposed to bounce off? But other than that, man, I didn't have any expectations. I just went into it thinking that it was going to be, you know, spot here, spot there. But he held his own, and you know, I'd like to see him do it again. I'd like to see him put some time into it and actually do it because I was impressed.
Well, unfortunately, he was on Adam Schefter's podcast know them from Adam, and he had officially announced his retirement from wrestling. So that sucks.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Ric Flair announced his retirement from wrestling, and Mick Foley has announced his retirement from wrestling. I think if the price is right, everybody is willing to come back. So I would take that with a grain of salt because wrestling always brings you back in.
I think that if he had landed that frog splash, he wouldn't have said that. This was 2 days afterwards. I think he was a little scared because when he got up, you could see the fear in his eyes. Like, okay, that wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. With a little more training, maybe I can come back and do it again. But he wants to play again. But I don't know what the market is for a 34-year-old running back. I say he just hangs it up and gives this thing a try in TNA because I think there's something there.
Absolutely. So, do you see a football team signing him? He's had a really good couple of years in Pittsburgh, and last season, I mean, he didn't put up monster numbers, but he did pretty good last season. Do you think a team will sign him?
I don't see. I mean, there's talks of the Seahawks possibly being interested in him, but where does he fit in with that team? They got Eddie Lacy. They have Thomas Rawls. They have C.J. Prosise coming back off an injury. I don't see where he fits in there. Nobody really values the running back anymore, and he's 34 years old. He's been known to get injured before. Yes, he had the 2 good years when Le'Veon was either A, hurt, or B, suspended. But at this point, I just don't know where he catches on. I don't see anywhere out there where he would fit in, even in a third down back role.
Yeah, I mean, the market's kind of slim for a 34-year-old running back. Those guys don't really have a long shelf life in the NFL. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. I mean, you feel bad for the guy, but hey, that's the league, man. And years ago, a 34-year-old running back who put up close to 500 yards this past year might have gotten in somewhere, but we're coming in on training camp. It's going to take a huge injury at the running back position anywhere in the NFL for this guy to even get a sniff, I think.
Well, good news for him. Jamal Charles is in a training camp this year. Eddie Lacy's always really fat, so somebody's gonna not make a team or get hurt, and they will need a guy to come in and spell their top guy. So he'll make a couple of mil this year maybe. There's a lot of teams out there, so who knows? But if I'm Jeff Jarrett, I'm backing up the Brinks truck and giving what this guy deserves, man, because when he's on television, I've seen him host on First Take and things like that, and he's been on the NFL Network. He's a really well-spoken guy. He has all his faculties together. He doesn't look like he's taking too much punishment, and the moves that he was pulling out in that match, dude, were just flat out incredible. So, them not signing D'Angelo Williams would be the most TNA thing ever. I honestly could see Triple H making a play for him and saying screw TNA, but or I guess whatever the Global Force, whatever stupid name they're going by now. But
yeah, it's Global Force Wrestling Impact now.
Oh, okay. So that's my other who gives a shit of the week. What TNA's name is now.
I just call it the promotion with the 6-sided rings, man. I don't watch it. I only watch it because you said you were going to call me. To be honest, man, I probably wouldn't have done anything more than just see the gifs or gifs like you said on Twitter and been happy with it. But I saw that you said you were going to call. I was like, all right, let me just give it a chance, and then there it was. He was actually pretty damn good.
All right, so are you GIF or a GIF guy?
Am I what?
Are you a GIF guy or a GIF guy?
I like to call them moving pictures.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I don't know what it is. You can be in a crowd of people and you will get corrected no matter what you say, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay.
Well, the creator of it, it's GIF with a hard G. I had to give Mike a lesson earlier. It's GIF with a hard G per the creator of the image. So
I see. Now that's the thing. I had heard somebody say that the guy who created it had called it a GIF.
That's what I thought too.
So you might be wrong over there, Joe. I don't know. You might want to check your sources on that.
I 100%. I watched the interview myself, but we're going to get sidetracked here. Let's get back into wrestling.
We'll revisit this controversy next week. I want to see some hard proof of how that shit's actually pronounced. But hey, Mike, man, I really appreciate you having us on. When is the Garbage Time Points podcast coming back on the air?
We'll be back the first week of August, just in time for training camp and to get you set up for your fantasy football draft. We took a little time off just to get our bearings back together, and we'll be back on it when football starts and ready to go. And you guys will be on there as our guests too. So be sure to check it out at Garbage Time Points on at GTP Mike and Rick on Twitter, and you can also follow me at Michael_Gaspar on Twitter. And give it a listen. These guys are on here too. They do a good job, and we appreciate it.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, hey, thanks a lot, guys.
Well, there you have it, Joe. D'Angelo Williams was quite impressive, according to Mike Gaspar of the Garbage Time Points podcast.
Yeah, man. And while we were talking there, I went back and watched the video of D'Angelo. Fully not his fault. He delivered just a good frog splash from somebody who has little experience. That table, it bent. They got the wrong table. It's clearly on Global Force or TNA, whatever the hell they are. They didn't get the right table in there for the guy. It's all their fault.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. We're still going to go ahead and play part 2 of our Conrad Thompson interview. We didn't get to keep it under an hour, but me and Daniel Richards got talking there for a while, man. But so what is your one thing that you're looking forward to this weekend?
I'm looking forward to Brock versus Joe. I tried to not get hyped up for it, but they sucked me right back in. I think it's going to be a physical match, and I just can't wait to see what they deliver. It's been one of the dream matches for quite some time, and it's finally going to happen.
Absolutely, man. And well, since you picked that one, I guess I'll go Roman and Strowman. That's going to be my what to watch this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, screw that. Everybody rewatch the G1 USA special. They're going to be showing 8 hours straight on Friday night on Access TV. And if you don't have Access, you can download the Sling app, and you can get a free 7-day trial. And definitely binge watch the Access G1 special for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So, hey, man, that's going to do it for this week. Thanks, Joe, and we'll talk to you next week. Everybody stay tuned for the Conrad Thompson interview, and don't give me any shit about the audio. All right, everybody. Good night. Now, you had mentioned Ring of Honor. How much of Ring of Honor are you watching these days?
Well, I mean, I still catch all the pay-per-views, but I don't catch the regular TV show. I don't get it in my area. Sinclair does not service Huntsville, Alabama. So if there's something posted online, I usually try to catch it, and I catch all the pay-per-views. So I keep up as much as I can. I've been to several Ring of Honor tapings. I first fell in love with Ring of Honor back in 2004, and we've had an on-again, off-again love affair ever.
Right. I think the fact that you can't watch that TV show on a regular basis really holds Ring of Honor back, and they're on such a big platform with Sinclair Broadcasting, and now that they've taken over Tribune Media and they have WGN at their disposal, what is the likelihood that Ring of Honor ends up on the WGN station or a station like it?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think if they could just uniform start time across all their markets, they'd pick up a lot of momentum. Bruce Pritchard has shared the story that once upon a time, WrestleMania was marketed starting at the same time everywhere. So I forget exactly the time, but let's just freestyle that it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, the show would air at 1 o'clock Eastern, but then they would air it at 1 o'clock on a 1-hour tape delay Central, and do the same for Mountain, but with 2 hours, and then do the same with Pacific, but with 3 hours. And that uniformity, even on the closed circuit market, really allowed for a clear, concise marketing and branding message and opportunity. And even if you couldn't say WGN, Ring of Honor, Sundays at 8, if you could just say catch Ring of Honor every Thursday at 10 or whatever it is, offering that consistent time would make a huge difference, in my opinion.
I totally agree. I've watched maybe a handful of their television shows, but I have caught a lot of their pay-per-views, and it's just they make it really inconvenient to be a fan of theirs, unfortunately, because the wrestling is so good. A lot of times they're probably the best 1-hour show on TV each week, with the exception to New Japan Pro Wrestling on Access. And it really seems like WWE has kind of oversaturated the market. They got 3 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Tuesday, or 3 hours on Tuesday with 205 Live. They got an hour on Wednesday. How much wrestling can a average fan actually digest each and every week?
Man, I think 3 hours is too. In a perfect world, 2 hours of Raw and an hour of SmackDown would be phenomenal. But that's just unrealistic, and especially if you're going to try to keep up with everything else. If you want to do an hour of New Japan, an hour of Ring of Honor, and as you said, all the other offshoots, Talking Smack, the new specials that come out, a pay-per-view, NXT, if there is some sort of tournament like the Cruiserweights or the women, and then just your regular Raw and SmackDown, it's a lot. That's before you ever get into any of the retro stuff on the network. So, to me, I think we're in the DVR generation, and I do think it is a kind of a la carte opportunity for most wrestling fans. I think if you can't be happy right now as a wrestling fan, you should find another hobby, because there is so much choice out there. No one is forcing you to watch any of it. You're not getting your arm twisted to pick one or the other. You can literally watch whatever you want, and there's so much content out there that you could just, kind of pick your spots, and that's what I find myself doing. If there's a hot angle for Ring of Honor that everybody's buzzing about, I'm going to go out of my way to find it. If there's a 6 1/4 match in New Japan, I'm going to go out of my way to find it. And then as far as Raw and SmackDown goes, I can kind of record those and just fast forward them to kind of pick my spots. And on the network, well, that goes without saying, you can just kind of bounce around and find exactly what you're looking for.
Awesome. Yeah, there's so much content. If you're a real wrestling fan, you don't really have anything to complain about. My biggest problem being a wrestling fan is that there's so much for me to watch. And as a married guy with a full-time job, it's hard for me to digest a lot of it. So I get to make up for some of that stuff by just playing podcasts at my job. And I get to catch up on stuff like that, and I'll go watch whatever I need to. So it's really convenient being a wrestling fan these days.
Yeah, especially when you consider the access we have to the performers through the miracle of social media. You and I actually lined up this podcast today through social media, and it goes to show you just how the world is becoming more and more connected just based on the relationships we build through the internet. And I think that's definitely where the money is long term in professional wrestling. Less and less about TV or pay-per-view, more and more about how you can manipulate this broadband internet to become your personal ATM.
Absolutely. And for all the people that were asking me how I was able to land Conrad on the show, well, I asked him, and he said yes. It was just like that. All I had to do was email him, and he said, absolutely, let's do it. So I really appreciate you coming on here. I don't want to keep you forever, so let me go ahead and fire off some questions that some of the folks on Twitter have sent over to me. So you and I are about the same age. I'm 34 years old. So we pretty much grew up in the Monday Night War era. Were you a WCW guy or a WWE guy?
Well, it really depends, I guess, on what was going on at the time. I would always watch both shows, and I would record both shows, and I'd kind of bounce back and forth. But if I had to pick one at the time, I certainly would have picked the WWF. Now, when I go back, I find that most of that stuff doesn't age as well, and I would probably be more of a WCW fan today.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I know that whenever I was 14 years old, all the stuff that they were doing was really cool. But now when I try to go back and watch some of the Attitude Era stuff, I kind of cringe just watching a lot of those things. And I find it easier to digest what WCW was putting out those days, especially, being an older married guy that I am right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree at all.
Right. And so I take it you were also an ECW fan. What were who were some of your favorite ECW wrestlers back in the 90s?
Well, that's kind of a tough question to ask. I think what I enjoyed most about ECW was the feeling that you were a part of something that was underground, that was cool, that was edgy, that was ahead of its time, and it almost was positioned as if it was, this own little clique within a clique, this own little band of bandits. The island of the misfit toys, if you will, and I think that's what made it cool is everybody wants to be the person who discovers the new hot restaurant in town and tell everybody about it, and everybody wants to be the guy who has a band CD before they blow up, and so a lot of their songs may appear on their first commercial release, but you've got the original with that hard to find artwork, and that type of stuff is cool. And I feel like that's what ECW presented itself as most of all. We're a niche company. Yes, we're different than them, but we're more passionate about it, and I think that's what I really enjoyed. But certainly the Raven character was phenomenal. The Sandman character was outstanding. I loved Taz. I thought Sabu and Van Dam were phenomenal. Once upon a time, I bought into the hype and thought the Eliminators were one of, if not the best tag team in the world. And of course, that's not true. It wound up being the Dudley Boys. Nobody saw that coming, but it happened. And I don't know that there was a more ECW style character than New Jack. To me, New Jack was the epitome of ECW. He could cut a promo. He had a cool look, and his entrance, was really unique and special. And of course, he brought a trash can full of weapons to the ring. I don't know how you get more unique than that.
Right, when he came out to "Natural Born Killers" by Ice Cube and Tupac, and a white boy from the hood like me was a really big fan of those guys back in the '90s. So I always was a really big fan of New Jack. Okay, so I got some fun questions for you before I let you get back to doing whatever you're doing. Okay, so if you, Tony, and Bruce were out in the middle of the ocean on a boat and it's about to sink, and one of you has to get off, which guy are you saving? Is it going to be Tony or Bruce?
Oh, I'm saving Bruce because 4 million people a month listen to Bruce, and I'm going to make a lot more money with Bruce. So I'll push Tony's head under the water, but first I will see if I can get a cell phone signal, and I'll show him bikini shots of Medusa and Deborah, so he'll die happy.
That's awesome. Okay, and is Jim Cornette into vampires?
I've never seen him watch a vampire movie or stab anyone in the heart with a stake.
Well, I asked that because during the Jim Cornette episode on your show, he had to leave a party because his girlfriend smelled garlic. I just thought that was interesting, and you guys didn't really elaborate on that.
Well, throw it in your Google machine. I'm not trying to be dismissive. Jim Cornette is a friend of Bruce Pritchard's. He's always been very polite to me. I would consider myself to be friendly with him. But a simple Google search can help you with some of those questions that I probably shouldn't answer.
Right. And last one. And so I'm going to turn the tables on you this time. A lot of times on the Bruce Pritchard show, you happen to ask how much people are getting paid, how much he was getting paid, certain wrestlers getting paid. So, Conrad, how much scratch you getting from his podcast, huh?
Millions of dollars.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm independently wealthy because of podcasts now. A lot of these guys are out here doing their podcasts and making peanuts, and that's not what we do. We're the big baller brand of podcasting at this point. Well, I'll tell you this. We're probably the third most profitable wrestling company in the United States. How's that?
I like it, man. I like it. Well, Conrad, I really appreciate you doing the show, man. I think that we're going to go from 60 followers to a hell of a lot more followers than what we have right now, and it's all because of you, brother. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Hey, man, sorry I was a little late getting together. We just finished taping the CM Punk episode. I hope everybody digs that. It's going to drop this Friday at noon, and then next Friday we're bringing In Your House Canadian Stampede. And then right in the middle, this coming Monday, we're going to cover the 1996 Bash at the Beach, where Hulk Hogan turned heel, a really iconic moment in the history of the sport. The story of CM Punk is a little bit of what might have been and what nearly wasn't. And then, of course, Canadian Stampede, maybe the hottest crowd in WWE history. It's going to be a fun couple of shows. Check them all out at MLWRadio.com. I'm on Twitter at Hey, it's Conrad, and I'd love to help you save some money on your mortgage. And you'll be glad that you went to SaveWithBruce.com. Bruce Pritchard and I are helping families all across the nation buy houses with no money down, refinance to get rid of all their debt, and most importantly, get out of debt faster. So whether you've got a second mortgage, you've got credit card debt, or maybe worst of all, if you're stuck in a 30-year loan, jump out in front of that, get a better deal, go to SaveWithBruce.com.
Awesome, Conrad. Thank you very much.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yep, no problem. Talk to you later, man.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.